Hi, marketers. This is Dots, and welcome to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. With me here is RJ Licata, Senior Director of Marketing at Terakeet. We will discuss modern customers' demand for reception marketing. That's a very interesting term, probably familiar, you're probably not, but why not stay to the end and let's get it? RJ, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, Dots. Great. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. So do you want to, before we get into the topic, which I cannot wait to, can you tell us a bit about yourself, your background? You've done really well as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I've been um in the marketing space for about 15 years, 9.5 years or so at Terakeet where I am currently. Prior to that, I spent 10 years working at Syracuse University with a football program. And my job started there with coaches, film, and video, and managing a lot of the technology for their scouting. And I stepped into a social media, new media role with that, advocating, marketing the football program, launched the social media accounts that the program didn't have at the time. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And it really gave me a good opportunity to step into a high profile environment where there's a lot of attention around a program, nationally known, a lot of fans eager for information. And it was really, it'll lead into like our topic later, I think, but it was a good opportunity for me to understand that we can give content to your audience or our audience in a way that's different and unique, but that connects to what they're clamoring for. And the results were amazing. Just the way that people engaged and took to what we were doing. And there was a tough stretch of time for the program, more losses than wins. And this was a nice way
Mm,
for us to kind of still retain some of that positive sentiment around the players who are college kids working their butts off, and connect their personal stories a little bit more to the fans. Um, Around 2014, I jumped over to Terakeet where I am now. And at the time, Terakeet was an SEO company working mostly with startup and venture backed organizations to really launch their marketing trajectory through organic search. And over the last 9 to 10 years, we've evolved a couple of different times to again match what the consumers in the marketplace for our particular services were most in need of. And what we've recently settled on is in large part this topic that I'm here to talk with you about today. But it's allowed us to carve out a very unique niche in the enterprise business space.
that's interesting. First of all, congratulations. 9 years at the company these days, especially in
Yeah,
the pursuit of happiness with people. It's unheard of. So great one. I am inspired. But
thank you.
first, before we get into the topic there, yeah. Um, we've interviewed maybe 180 people, and only three have some deep sporting background. So, do you want to tell me about like how is marketing in sporting industry helped shape your marketing experience in general? It's very experiential. It's very it's very exciting. It's
Mhm.
probably the most stressful field to market in.
Yeah.
I'm a soccer fan myself, Super Eagles of Nigeria and all that fun stuff. And, it's just, again, exciting but stressful. So, how did that prepare you for the journey ahead?
Yeah, that's a great question. The if there's one thing that's a little bit more intangible that I can take from it, it was establishing a work ethic. The
Mm,
the interesting thing about sports is that it's your work, but it's everyone else's entertainment. And so that means that games are in the evenings, they're on the weekends, they're on holidays. And you have to sacrifice a lot of your own personal life in order to serve the folks that you're working with or for.
mm,
And it's hard, but I think it also established this like when I came to Cherokee and we were more of a traditional business environment, it's like, you mean to tell me that I only have to work 40 hours a week because that's the baseline expectation. I'm gladly going to put in 50 when the time calls for it because I'm used to how this works in other environments. And so sports being entertainment for most and employment for few really shaped my mental approach, especially coming out of college when you're trying to get used to how the professional world works, I think benefited from having much more of a willing to sacrifice for the team element.
Hey there, if you're anything like me, have lots of website traffic, but no idea which ones are window shoppers and which are ready to seal the deal, then I've got a game changer for you. It's Lead Feeder. This is a tool I like using. And what it does is it shows you which companies are coming to your site. You can track their behavior and integrate it with your CRM, which will help take your lead generation efforts to make it more targeted. The result? Convert more website traffic into sales. Head over to leadfeeder.com now for a free demo, and you can also get a free extended premium trial when you let the rep know that you found out about Leadfeeder through the Marketing Leadership Podcast. All right, back to the show. That makes a lot of sense. Exactly.
Right.
Okay, so what we're talking about today, of course, reception marketing. I would like to start from the top. Of course, problem arises and then there's solution. I think most of the world is not proactive, they are reactive. I guess it's part of human nature, but we can be better. Topic for another day.
Mhm.
But what are some of the things in consumer behavior or customer behavior, as I would call it, that has changed that requires marketers to start to think to create a much better marketing experience? What are some of those triggers that the market is feeling? And I guess this cuts across B2B or direct to consumer. What are some of the things that you've seen that necessitates the fact that I think we need to change our approach to the way we market in general?
Yeah, great question. There's a quote that I'm probably gonna butcher a bit, but it says something to the effect of bankruptcy happens very slowly and then all at once, right? And it's this idea where like gradually you're headed towards something and then you don't realize it. It's like the idea of boiling the frog in the water, right? It doesn't jump out at first because the temperature gradually rises. And what we've seen, if we think about the last 20 years or so, is that there was a pivot in the early 2000s, around 2008, say, when a couple of different things happened. One was the adoption of the smartphone, where consumers, the majority of people were starting to have a smartphone in their pocket, which means they had access to information at the ready at all times. Second to that, equally as important, but in addition, was streaming video and Netflix. And when Netflix went from having DVDs that you can get in the mail to having an always on streaming platform, it changed the expectations for consumers where everything became on demand and you could get all of this stuff whenever you wanted it. And that happened very slowly. But now when you think about something like COVID, I think that was the flip switch where it became all at once. Because people's behaviors changed in accordance with this technology change that had gradually been headed that direction. So when you start seeing consumers doing more online rather than going into stores because COVID put some restrictions on that, and you had a whole holiday shopping season really where people weren't going into stores, it changed behaviors in a way that it became almost permanent for many people. A lot of those behaviors that started then have become consistent now. And when consumers are used to having everything at the ready, brands need to deliver on that, or else the consumers are going to go somewhere else to someone who does. And that really was the pivotal change that I think made what we're talking about with reception marketing so critical now.
Mhm. Makes sense there. And of course, this has made customers, I don't want to use the word wiser because I don't think they are still wise. People still fall for the fake it till you make it brands out there. But they become more critical. As I would say, they've almost become their own account executives in a way. Yeah, because they're trying to find solution. Even if you walk to a store right now, like you're probably going to compare a few items before you buy the one you want, because it's just it's just the way it is. Things are really changing. There's a lot of that, at the early days, we had Brian Kramer on the podcast, Human to Human, and there's more of that coming up now. Even with the advent of technology, there's more of that coming up now as well. So I agree with you, and thanks for giving it a bit of a history. around
Yeah.
that. History is one of my other passions. Maybe one day I'll start a history podcast, but
Well, I'll be on it if I can help.
well, we'll see. But yeah, so now to the topic at reception marketing. What does it mean? And
So
how can marketers, use it to connect to their customers?
reception marketing is a concept that Terakeet invented to help explain an approach to marketing that connects brands to their consumers, their audience, at the critical moments when consumers would be most receptive to that information.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit of a play on words in that we want to connect with them when they're receptive to it, but also understanding that consumers operate on a frequency, almost like a radio would. There's a concept called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, which basically says that people will be more likely to notice something when they're tuned into that thing. If you're searching for a particular type of car, all of a sudden on the highway, you're only going to see that car, right? It's gonna bring your attention to that. And that's the frequency that they're operating on. And if brands can match their marketing frequency at scale to the frequency of their audience at large, they stand a better chance of being successful with their messaging and with what they want consumers to do, which is ultimately to make a purchase. But that purchase starts much earlier in the process now, and that connection to brands starts much earlier than it would in the older days when we would walk in and make a purchase transactionally at a store without giving it too much more of a deeper thought. The history lesson here and the piece of it that connects to the broader long term where marketing has come from is reception marketing is part of a spectrum of what Seth Godin coined in the early 2000s of interruption marketing and then permission marketing, and that was Seth. He wrote a book on it, and we're taking it to the next step now, in large part because of how technology and consumer behavior has changed to address that. Permission marketing is still valid, but it's no longer enough. The idea of interruption marketing as, advertising one-way communications from brand to consumer, captive audience, that kind of thing, it served its purpose with television and radio, and it still serves a purpose. But if it's not done understanding what the consumers are interested in and providing that full customer connection across the board, multiple touch points, that kind of thing, then it still leaves a lot to be desired. Reception marketing does better because it allows for a little bit more of a back and forth because the consumer is opting into an email list or something of that sort. But where that falls short is that just because I come to the website to buy sunglasses and you offer me 10% off if I sign up for your email list, doesn't mean that I want to get those marketing emails from you over and over and over and over again. And
That
so if you're
tactic
not,
tactic is so still. Everyone is
yeah,
using it now. Yeah, but go on.
right.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. But I think it resonates when you hear it that way, right? Where it's like, yeah, I don't want to be marketed to that way. So why are we so quick to market to others that way? And so I'm not saying that email marketing doesn't have a place. I'm
Mm.
just saying that it needs to be done with more intentionality and understanding how it connects to what we're saying reception marketing is, which is really tapping into the consumer frequencies in a way where you're providing value before they need it or before they're looking for it, because that's how you breed that loyalty and that reciprocity where they want to now help the brand who helped them.
Interesting. Interesting. I like tying into the frequency. And I'm sure there are a couple of other things that we could really look at here in terms of the enablers for that to happen. I guess one of the key enablers is concept called owned asset optimization. So again, another thing you need to define, maybe with
Yeah.
some historical context as well. But yeah, I will let us explore, that what does that mean? Owned asset optimization. How does it create or help, reception marketing and take it to the next level? What are the benefits, for example, especially when tech is required? And, yeah, just let's get as much wisdom on that topic as possible. I know most of our listeners may not be familiar with it and viewers.
Absolutely. Yes. One of the things that we're trying to do as a marketing unit for a marketing company is to expand on the awareness of this topic. So we've stepped into category design. I don't know if you're familiar at all with some of those concepts, but This idea of
Mm,
similar to Uber with ride sharing and
mm,
Salesforce with cloud computing and CRMs.
yeah.
Uh, Something new and different is what we've identified here as an opportunity. And so owned asset optimization is a phrase that we've coined. It's a business category that Terakeet has invented, but we're attempting and wanting it to be known and understood in a way that it becomes mainstream and that more folks are adopting it. Because although we may be biased, we feel like that is the most effective way to market to the current consumer. And the way it works is you've got the umbrella of reception marketing, more of a philosophy of connecting to the frequency that your consumers are on. Owned asset optimization is a way of executing against that philosophy. So it's a marketing strategy that takes consumer intent, consumer behavior data.
Mm,
We use a number of different sources for this, but it originates with the wealth of information that's available with search engines. So if you think about your own search behavior, chances are you, like most of us, have gotten vulnerable at certain times with search engines because
yeah.
it's just you and the search engine, right? And you're willing maybe to ask it something more personal than you might your closest friend or family member.
Yeah.
And that level of vulnerability shows the true desires of the consumer. And it's gathered not individually. I can't tell what you've searched for, but I can tell what people like you have searched for. People your age group,
I've searched
people
for
in
how to become a millionaire by the end of the decade.
oh, right. Right. And so if there's, hundreds, thousands of other people who have searched for that, then people who can help you do that will be able to understand what kind of content they can provide in order to be of service. This is relatively basic SEO practice, so it's not incredibly new or different in that sense. But by taking those insights, we're able to start first with the owned assets of a brand, and that's where OAO comes in. Owned asset optimization doesn't exclude the unowned stuff, but it kind of turns the peso model on its head a bit and says owned assets are the most important to build the foundation to start with, because once you have those in place and people are coming to your website or to your owned asset, they're going to get what they need and be more likely to transact. But in order for that to be well-rounded and what further developed, it's got to extend into what we call the managed assets, which are things like social media profiles, email, organic search itself, where you don't have full control over those channels, but you have some control. You can implement and manipulate them to some degree for your benefit. I sent a link over to you. I think when we were chatting before about what we call the Mach 6, and it stands for the sixth level marketing asset control hierarchy. And that framework is how we organize, how we visualize the network of assets and channels working together for some of the brands that we work with, some of the biggest companies in the world, Fortune 50,
Mm,
where they've got
wow.
so much disparate activity happening within their marketing organizations that the unification and the cohesion of something like the Mach 6 helps them to understand, helps us to provide that value to them to understand how all of the different assets work together, depending on the degree of control. That is the priority here: is how much control do we have over that, and how well can we optimize it without anyone else potentially interfering or standing in the way.
Interesting stuff. The so whether it's on asset optimization or again the reception marketing in general, I say I'll stick to reception marketing in general. Does it in your own application of that concept at a high level, are there differences you see across industry? I know that from the work you do, you have industry specialization. So that I'm just a little bit curious about that. Like, are there differences in how they work? And if you're viewing this, you see what the asset stack that the RJ is talking about there. I get brilliantly explained. So thank you for that. But yeah, like from an industry perspective, things like this March 6, things like the reception marketing in general, or owned asset optimization, which I think all culminate into, digital marketing transformation to
Mhm.
give better digital experiences to customers. How do they differ by industries? And what are some of the, I guess, um, scenarios that come to mind when you look at those differences?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. We work with a number of different industries, B2B, B2C. The beauty of OAO is it can work for a local pizza shop. It can work for the biggest brand and organization in the world because the
Mhm.
concepts and the principles are scalable, transferable, and it's not an all or nothing kind of a package. You can take bits and pieces of it, running it through the lens of let's start with what we own and control and figure out how we can extend our messaging throughout. Or we took a really huge news story and there's opportunity now for us to work backwards and bring that external asset back towards something that we own so that maybe it turns into positive press or revenue for us. So that flexibility allows us and anyone who wants to execute OAO to adapt it and customize it for their particular needs. And company size is one dynamic where that changes, but so is, to your point, industries where there are, certain regulations, say with the financial space or with the healthcare space, where drug companies are allowed to only say things a certain way um, in their marketing because otherwise, they run into regulation issues. So that's okay because we're able to kind of craft a custom scenario or solution depending on where there's opportunity, and that's where a lot of our technology that is proprietary to us comes into play, where it helps us to understand the landscape and ingest all of the owned assets of these particular organizations to find where those pockets of opportunity or problems or you know uh, challenges or whatever are occurring so that we can triage in particular pockets. And so to that end, we customize it for the brand, for the industry, for the opportunity, and also tailor it to you might have two financial services organizations, which
Mhm.
ordinarily you would say, hey, that's a cookie cutter. Let's just give them the FinServe package. But we can't do
Mhm.
that because um, services company A might be looking to get more customers and B might be looking to shore up their brand reputation because it's not what it once was. And those are, even though they're in the same industry, same company size, whatever, they're two different applications of it. So this gives us a lot of flexibility to really get specific and custom to the needs of the consumer and the customer, I should say.
Interesting stuff. If you're listening or viewing, we are probably going into the deep end of being very technical here, but these are very useful stuff. In the B2B end, there's the subject of data enrichment for audiences. There's the subject of total addressable market development. Do you use any of those principles or tech in your, with clients' experiences? So I'll give you an example. I am an Android guy. I want to switch to Apple. Apple has some lead feeder style technology or warmly style technology or Zoom info on their site. I am not their customer yet, but when I visit their site, they are able to, based on some of the other, things I might have accepted in terms of like cookies and all that, give me some tweaked version of their experience. And this may not just be website only, it could be emails, it could be whatever if you subscribe to a
Mhm.
newsletter. And then try to tailor my experience based on that profile that they have seen. Again, I know that life in general, especially the marketing life, is more contextual, which is what you sort of ended your response there with. But I'm just curious, is that something you also do? Since again, you guys won't have like a ton of databases and industry benchmarks to work with.
Yes. So I would probably have to refer you to someone more on the delivery side for what we're doing for our customers when it comes to the specifics of
Mm-hmm.
how we execute it. But I do know
Mm-hmm.
that, total addressable market is certainly something that we're looking at to support the opportunity for our customers. They may come thinking that they've got a challenge or a problem that is this big and over here. And by using, our tech to understand the total addressable market, we're able to say, well, actually, your opportunity or your problem is this big and it's over here a little bit more. And so
Mm-hmm.
it gives us stronger alignment with what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And we're incorporating that into how we're working, but the specifics of it and we're not using data enrichment and cookies to the degree that Lead Feeder or some of those other companies might be.
Yeah. I mean, again, from stalking you guys, I see that you have this audience needs, audience experience, search strategy, and basically you are looking at the balance of all that. So that makes a lot of sense. Guys, I know that it's all very techy, serious stuff being discussed, but we are about to have some fun. and that is the Dots Rapid Fire. That'll be coming soon after this break. And then once we go to the rapid fire, it's just one more question for RJ, and we will wrap this up. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. So, like I said, the Dots Rapid Fire is 3 questions, but I know what will happen. I think what will happen is that once RJ is put through this fire, it's just going to say flame on, and it's going to be receptive, like the topic we are discussing, receptive marketing. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's do it. First question, what is your favorite marketing metric? And I don't want to hear sales or revenue.
No, the one that tells the true story. So data can be manipulated, I think, to tell the narrative you want. So the one that helps you get to the truth is the one I prefer.
Love it. Okay. Second question, how long do you use social media every day?
Too long.
What's too people say too long and then say 1 hour. 1 hour is not bad.
In total a daily, I'm probably on it about 4 hours. But some of
so
my
how much of that is business?
Half, maybe.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
the most common one is 1 hour for business. We got a bunch of 2-hour folks out there. In which way you are. And yeah, we've got some that like 15 minutes. I don't know how they do it, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't do only 15. That's too short.
You know, as long as it's making money, you know,
That's right.
You're all good. So, final rapid fire question. What is your favorite marketing quote?
So one that I found recently that I really like, and I think it ties in perfectly to what we've been talking about today, is from Peter Drucker. And it's the aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well that the product or service fits them and sells itself. And I love this because a thing that I've kind of connected to with the idea of reception marketing is consumer service rather than customer service. So it's giving someone the value before they become a customer so that when they're ready to, it's a no-brainer for them. And I feel like if marketing has done its job, then for sales, it's not about convincing the prospect whether to buy, it's about convincing them of how much to buy. And this quote, I think, touches on that really well.
Like that, which is why, again, I no longer do that. But at the beginning, I was all about sales enablement mindset. I was all about having marketing people work more, I guess, to be more receptive when it comes to working within what I call a commercial mega team. You know, that has all the other, because you're listening to all the stakeholders who are out there in the field, basically, and you can optimize your, marketing accordingly. And speaking of optimizing marketing accordingly, goes to my last question. Do you guys, again, maybe technical here, but I am a customer now of Apple. I'm no longer using Android. I'm just saying. And now I've got some details on the Apple CRM. And, so if you are, if you know someone who is listening that is in that situation on the marketing side, how do you think they can use CRM systems, for example, to tailor reception marketing efforts, so that interaction, like you said, is at the right frequency, right message, right time. And my reply, or what I'm expecting from you, is beyond setting up flows. If there's a thing called website flows, that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about from a strategic perspective. Are there ways in which, your clients, for example, provide you with some CRM data, and you could, based on that, tailor an overall marketing experience for a customer to a point where they're like, yeah, these people know me. I will stick around for longer.
Yeah, we to my knowledge, and again, I think specific accounts might have more detail when it comes to what our customer is working through and what data they provide to us. But
Mm,
generally speaking, we don't work terribly closely with the CRMs, but we will influence the content that maybe goes out to an email list, or
mm,
absorb what they recognize about their consumers to build out consumer intent profiles to bring the messaging and the impact to scale, so that we don't have to tailor it as much to an individual as we do to many individuals like them, who can all kind of fall into that journey in a similar lockstep. um, in many ways, it becomes kind of like how you would think about, we're trying to influence on ramps onto the customer highway, as opposed
mm,
to intersections with stoplights where we want the consumer to stop and hear this message. And so the CRM piece of it is, it's a little bit more difficult to tailor that to reception marketing as it would be other methods. But when it all kind of comes together, it it fits into a, let's match the consumer needs with what we're providing.
mm. Interesting. I learned something new there. Again, I know I can go on and on about this, but you've been an amazing guest. I know we couldn't get a few of the other folks from Tariq here on the podcast. I don't want to mention names, but I've seen you online and doing all the videos. I thought, yeah, I think this is the right guy for the job. So thank you so much for what you do. Where can people follow you to learn more about this concept of receptive marketing, which I think is pretty new and is a bit differentiated? You know, people come up with terms all the time to be famous. So where can people follow you to learn more about this?
Well, first, Dots, I appreciate the opportunity. This has been a great experience. I love what you're doing here, so keep that up. Folks can find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to connect with me. To the question about how often I'm on social media, I'm trying to be there more often so that I can share more content myself on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. But that's the best place to find me and connect. And please mention that you saw me here, so that we have a nice basis to start a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, that's all we have for you. So if you want to see more of these great episodes, it's at dotslovesmarketing.com, dotslovesmarketing.com. You want to also subscribe to the Marketing Leadership Podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. I would like to thank Desric and Content Allies and Listen Network for all their support. It's been an amazing run so far. Till next time, guys, connect it up.